You didn't talk much on the way back to the research camp. Some silences don't need filling. Tuma trudged ahead, the soft crunch of his boots pacing the quiet. You kept your eyes on the sky, scanning for any sign of the spiral's return. But the clouds above looked normal again. Too normal. The kind of normal that hides things behind it. When you reached the perimeter of the tents, you expected things to feel different. More dramatic. Trumpets, fireworks, applause maybe, but no. Just the hum of solar batteries, the whine of a half-broken generator, and the flutter of tarps catching a breeze. It was like nothing had changed, except everything had. Tuma handed you a thermos of hot broth without a word. You nodded in thanks, wrapped your hands around it, and sat on the edge of the nearest crate. The heat seeped into your palms, but not deep enough to chase the cold that had crept beneath your skin. "You okay?" he asked finally. You shook your head.
"No."
"But I will be." Tuma smirked. "That's the spirit." After a while you said, "That place, it knew me." He sat beside you. "It knew all of us. We just don't all hear it." "You think it's calling others?" Tuma didn't answer right away. Then, "It already has." You tilted your head. "What do you mean?" Instead of answering, he stood and walked over to a locked equipment trunk, fumbled with a key around his neck. When he popped the lid open, the metallic creak echoed too loudly. From inside, he pulled a bundle wrapped in dark canvas. He unwrapped it carefully. Inside, another disc, but this one was cracked down the center, chipped at the edges, still faintly humming. "I found it years ago," Tuma said quietly. "Didn't tell anyone. I was scared. Thought it was just noise, static. But then I started dreaming." You stared. "Why didn't you say something?" "Because the last person who did vanished. That silenced you." Here's your odd fact of the night. In 1959, 9 Soviet hikers died mysteriously in the Ural Mountains at a place now known as the Dyatlov Pass. Their tents were ripped from the inside. Their injuries were bizarre, inconsistent. Some say it was an avalanche. Others say infrasound. A few whisper it was contact. Tuma ran his fingers along the crack in the disc. "I think mine's broken. I think I was meant to follow, but I didn't." "You still can," you said. He looked at you, eyes tired. "Not all of us are meant to cross." You both sat in silence for a long time. Later that night, you returned to your tent. But you couldn't sleep. Not because you were afraid, but because something had begun building behind your eyes again. Not a spiral this time. A line. Path. Straight and narrow. Like the beginning of a thread waiting to be pulled. You reached for your notebook, but instead of writing, you flipped to the first page. And there, faintly drawn in your own handwriting, though you didn't remember writing it, was a symbol. Not a spiral. Not a star. A doorway, with 3 lines above it. 3 moons. And a phrase you couldn't place. But somehow you understood. "Return to where the ice sings." The phrase rang in your skull like a bell underwater. You stepped outside. The sky above was clear. And there, just above the horizon, the moon glinted through a gap in the clouds. Not glowing. Listening. You stood in the snow, arms crossed, breath fogging the air. Waiting. Nothing came. But then, to your left, the ice cracked. You spun. Tuma's voice called from the ridge. "You hear that?" You nodded. "Yeah." He motioned. "We follow it." The sound wasn't sharp. It wasn't even loud. Just present. A soft hum, like a frozen cello string vibrating somewhere deep in the glacier. You and Tuma walked, flashlights guiding you. And then you saw it. An opening. Small. Narrow. Definitely not natural. A tunnel melting inward, as if the glacier had been bored from the inside out by heat that wasn't heat at all. Tuma hesitated. You looked at him. "Are you coming?" He grinned grimly. "I never get to be the smart one." And in you went. The air shifted. The sound deepened. And then, for the briefest moment, you felt like you weren't walking through a tunnel anymore, but through memory itself. The tunnel led to a chamber unlike the others. A sphere, perfectly round. Walls etched with faint, glowing symbols. Not written language, shapes. Layers of snowflakes, spines of feathers, curves of wave crests. And in the center, pillar of ice. Tall, silent. Inside it, a figure. Not alien, not human. Something in between. Peaceful. Frozen mid-step. Like they'd walked in, accepted what waited, and let time wrap around them like a blanket. Tuma gasped. I know him. You turned sharply. What? Tuma stepped forward, hand on the ice. He was in my grandfather's old sketches, the ones we thought were dreams. The ice around the figure shimmered faintly, then cracked, a single hairline fracture down the middle. Tuma backed away. We should go. You stayed rooted. No. He shook his head. We're not ready for this. You stepped forward, pressed your palm against the ice, and whispered the phrase from your notebook. Return to where the ice sings. The ice glowed softly, and the hum returned, this time not from below, from within you. Tuma grabbed your shoulder. It's starting again. You nodded. Yes, and you weren't afraid. Scientists still debate whether sound can store memory the same way data does, etched into shape, pattern, vibration. But the chamber knew the answer. And so did you. You were part of the song now. It didn't shatter. The ice didn't explode or burst into glittering shards like in the movies. Instead, the pillar sighed. That's the only word for it. A soundless release, like breath held for too long. A pale vapor drifted upward in ribbons, dissolving into the chamber walls. The glow dimmed, and the figure inside blinked. Slowly, once, you stumbled backward, heartbeat hammering. Tuma whispered something under his breath. Maybe a prayer, maybe a curse. The figure remained still, one hand still mid-reach, still half encased in melting crystal. Then it stepped forward. Not awkwardly, not with menace, with calm. Like someone arriving late to a quiet reunion. Their eyes, when you could finally see them, weren't alien at all. They were yours. Not literally, but that same ancient tiredness. That same wonder-fear. You felt it in your spine, in the spiral under your skin. And suddenly, everything felt reversed. Like you were the one they'd been waiting for. Like you were the myth. Who are you? You asked, but not with your mouth. The question echoed anyway, not through sound but through memory. They didn't answer. They simply raised their hand, palm open, and revealed something nestled inside. A disc. Just like yours. But its spiral didn't twist outward, turned in. And the moment your eyes traced its center, the world shifted. Colors inverted. The room folded. Your body felt feather-light and mountain-heavy at the same time. You fell but not down. Inward, like diving through your own reflection in ice. Then, black, not unconscious, a blackness full of meaning. Stars pulsed in that dark. Not distant stars, close ones. Ideas shaped like constellations. Memories arranged like galaxies. You weren't dreaming. You weren't hallucinating. You were remembering forward. Images danced. A pyramid half buried in Antarctic snow. Not Egyptian, older. Smooth walls, obsidian black, carved with spirals that didn't repeat. A child standing before it, humming. A voice whispering that shape was language and silence was permission. Then yourself, walking through a corridor that didn't exist. Touching walls that hummed your name in tones instead of letters. Then light, and the ice chamber returned. You were on the ground. Tuma knelt beside you, eyes wide. You went somewhere, he said. I remember, you whispered. What? The place the pyramids point to, you said, still dizzy. It's not Egypt. He frowned. Where then? Under us. Under Antarctica. Tuma blinked. There are no pyramids under Antarctica. You shook your head. That's what they think. You stood, brushing frost off your coat. The figure, the one from the pillar, was gone. Not dissolved. Just folded away. Like a memory no longer needed. In its place, a spiral etched into the floor, still glowing. You traced it with your boot, and knew where you had to go. Odd fact of the night? Satellite imagery in 2016 revealed pyramid-shaped landforms buried deep under the Antarctic ice sheet. Geologists claim their natural nunataks exposed peaks, but some researchers, more fringe than formal, believe otherwise. The symmetry's too clean, the lines too aligned. Tuma grabbed his pack. Tell me you're not thinking. I am. You don't even know if anything's there. You nodded. I do now. You left that night, packed light, brought the disk, your journal, a sensor rig, and 2 backup batteries. You didn't tell anyone where you were going, except Tuma, who just sighed and said, "You'd better bring back a really good story." And then the blizzard hit. Not an angry one, a soft whiteout gentle as ashfall. The kind of storm that erases tracks as they're made. The kind of storm that doesn't stop you, but makes sure no one else follows. You reached the edge of the marked terrain before the signal dropped. The GPS blinked once, then turned blank. And there it was, barely visible through the swirling snow. A point, not a building, not a hole, a glow, shaped like a doorway. If a doorway had no frame, just presence. The snow around it melted in slow circles. You stepped forward and fell through, not into darkness, into light, a tunnel of sky-colored glow spiraling downward. Not a fall, not a descent. More like sliding through your own heartbeat. You passed walls of symbols, some you recognized, most you didn't. The disc pulsed in your pocket, sinking with each bend. Then silence. Then a floor. Warm. You stood in a new chamber. Bigger. Older. Realer. Pyramid. But not built. Grown. The walls curved like bones. The ceiling shimmered like fish scales. And in the center, suspended above the floor, spun a globe of water, not falling, not dripping, just hovering. Inside it, a spiral. You touched the air around it. The spiral glowed, and music filled the chamber. Not earth music. Something older. Something from before rhythm. And you finally understood. The spiral isn't a symbol. It's an address. To a place memory returns to when time is done pretending. Scientists still debate whether symbols can encode spatial-temporal coordinates across dimensional densities. But you didn't need a white paper to explain this. You were standing inside the answer. You placed your disk on the floor. The chamber accepted it. And the globe pulsed once. 15 beats. A pause. Then again. And far above, beneath the Antarctic sky, the spiral shimmered back into view. Not a message this time. A reply. The reply didn't make a sound, but you felt it, rising from the floor like steam, sinking into your bones like cold light. It wasn't communication the way you'd been taught to expect it. No words, no signs, no cinematic projector beaming glyphs into the air. Just a feeling, deep and still. We see you. You stood motionless for a long time. Around you, the pyramid pulsed in soft hues. Indigo, frost, silver green. The hovering globe of water still floated at eye level, rippling with light that no longer came from the chamber walls, but from within itself. The spiral inside it spun slowly, like a galaxy under glass. You took a breath and spoke aloud.
I'm listening. No hecho.
No answer. Just a slow blink of the globe, its spiral stuttering once, then returning to rhythm. Then, finally, the walls shifted. Not mechanically, not even spatially. They just forgot to be walls. What surrounded you became open sky, but not earth sky. This one was violet, brighter, heavier. 3 moons hung above. One a slivered crescent, one whole, one cracked down the center like a fossilized egg. Beneath your feet the pyramid was gone, replaced by black sand that shimmered with icy veins. You weren't on Earth anymore. But you hadn't left it either. You walked. Each step lit the ground slightly, like pressure revealed truth. Ahead stood another figure. Tall, robed, face obscured in the swirl of ambient light. Not alien, not human, just witness. They raised one hand. Between 2 fingers, a new disc. You took it. It didn't feel heavy, didn't pulse or sing. It breathed. A soft inhale as your fingers wrapped around it. An exhale as it folded flat, then unfolded again, this time into a map. Not of continents, not of stars. A map of events. paths crossing, people dreaming. You saw Tuma, Elder Nuviek, the child from your memory tracing spirals in the sand. You saw yourself again and again, arriving at the same place through different stories. Each path ended here, and one extended forward. You looked up. The moons were drifting apart now, the sky shimmering like water, and suddenly you understood why the spiral wasn't a destination. It was a choice, where memory folds, where time resets, where civilizations forget themselves to remember more deeply. There is always the spiral, as map, as message, as door. You turned to the figure who hadn't spoken. What happens now? A long pause, then finally a whisper, not in air, in feeling. You carry it forward, and the world spun once more. The pyramid returned. The chamber reformed around you. The disk in your hand cooled and compacted, as though it had always been that size, that shape. Tuma stood at the threshold, breathing hard. What happened? You stared at him, words slow to form. We're not the first, you said. And we're not the only ones still listening. Back in the village, life hadn't changed. Not visibly, but the children were quieter that week. The stars blinked more often. A few elders smiled knowingly at nothing in particular. You left the disk with Nuviek. I don't need it anymore, you told her. She took it with a nod. No words. You kept the new one. And whenever you closed your eyes, you saw that sand path leading into spiral sky. Odd fact to end with. Spiral galaxies make up over 60% of the known universe. Scientists still debate why they spiral at all, and why that shape repeats in hurricanes, in snail shells, in galaxies, in DNA. But you knew now. It's the shape that remembers. You spent the next weeks walking trails alone, writing what you could recall, drawing what you couldn't quite explain. Sometimes you'd feel that familiar pull in your ribs. Sometimes you'd wake up with sand on your floor, even though you lived nowhere near a beach. You didn't go back to the pyramid. You didn't need to. It had left its door open in your memory. And if others wanted to find it, they would feel the hum. The spiral would find them, like it found you. Now you sit by the window, watching the sky ripple gently with distant lights. Nothing dramatic, nothing flashing. Just subtle shifts in glow, like the night itself is blinking in slow, thoughtful patterns. You don't panic anymore when you see them. You don't rush to document or explain. You simply watch, because you understand now. Not all stories are meant to be proven. Some are meant to be carried. You remember Elder Nuviak's voice, soft as snowflakes. You'll forget parts of this, to make room. And she was right. Some details slip away like frost from glass, but the shape remains. The spiral stays. You trace it sometimes with your finger in the air, absent-mindedly. And every now and then a child will notice. What is that? They ask. And you smile just a little. It's a song, you say. But one only time can hear. Because you're not just a listener anymore. You're part of the story now. A witness to a world beneath the ice, shaped by memory and myth and echo. And somewhere beneath Antarctica, behind the stars, maybe inside the bones of the pyramids, another spiral spins quietly in the dark. Not waiting, not watching, just remembering. And if you close your eyes long enough, you can still hear the lullaby. There's always 15 beats, then pause, then again.